Good afternoon to you. Mark Sott of HurricaneTrack.com here with your Hurricane Outlook and discussion. It is Saturday, October 26, 2019, and the tropics remain active with all kinds of things to look at here. Nothing that's of any major consequence, but a few systems to watch nonetheless. We have Pablo way out here in the eastern Atlantic. The subtropics going to affect the Azores. A very interesting storm embedded in a larger circulation that itself is cyclonic, kind of an unusual setup, but it does meet the criteria, and it is a named storm. It's part of the National Hurricane Center's area of responsibility. Yes, if we didn't have satellites, it would go probably undetected, but we do, and therefore it becomes the 16th named storm of the year. We had Olga that moved into the Gulf Coast states last night, right up through here. And we'll take a look at where that is in just a moment, the leftovers of that. And then we have this cyclone Kayar, or something like that, over in the Arabian Sea, and I'll show you more details on that system in just a moment. So, the National Hurricane Center map from 11 a.m. this morning, the advisory is still being initiated on Pablo here. If we click on it, you can see it's going to go through the easternmost Azores, a very, very small system. Generally speaking, inconsequential overall, not much impact, more of a novelty, one of these rare instances where you can get a tropical storm to develop in an environment where the overall normal thought processes that you'd look at as forgetting development aren't there. It's a different kind of setup, but the result is the same, and it is this very, very small, look, the little tiny area of tropical storm force winds is just so small, very similar to just one of the sizes of one of the Azores Islands. So interesting to see it out there, the 16th named storm of the season. A lot of storms this year have been very short-lived, and the ACE index not quite getting to the 150 points that I thought we would hit back in August. I made that proclamation. We still have a few weeks left in the season where we could get a powerful hurricane somewhere that would rack up those ACE points. ACE points are accumulated cyclone energy, and that's the energy output from the wind, and it gives you an idea of the quality of the systems over quantity. Because look, we're at 16 named storms, but we don't have an ACE of like 200 or anything. Right now, I believe it's still in the 120s or something like that. But anyhow, we'll visit that again another time. In the Eastern Pacific, nothing going on out here. Same thing for the Central Pacific. But like I said, we'll take a look at this system over here in the Arabian Sea in just a moment. First, the satellite animation courtesy of Tropical Tidbits. And there's the remnants of Olga, developed down here in the Gulf, moved up into southeast Louisiana. And the overall pattern and storminess that was associated with this indirectly with the overall, instability and the warm sector of this cold front that's coming through. All of that came together and produced several tornadoes here in southwest Alabama. You've probably seen on social media the dramatic footage from Mobile, the backyard cameras. There's cameras everywhere now, and they tend to catch these kinds of things. Well, all of that mess is now moving up into the deep south. Heavy rain, some severe weather still. Strong onshore flow coming in from the south into the Florida Panhandle. Not the best of beach day activities down there. Red flag warnings. Stay out of the water. Be careful. All that kind of stuff. Just kind of a nasty weekend. And then on the backside of this, cooler, drier air has filtered in through Texas, spilling down into the Gulf of Mexico. And that'll essentially be shut down for the time being, but now we got to watch this area right through here. This has piqued my interest just a little bit, and I'll show you why in just a moment. Now, way over here is Pablo. So if we go back to the Tropical Tidbits site, and I should have had this up. My apologies. It's okay. Well, let's look at the floater on Pablo, and let's look at the high-resolution visible. Look how small that is. But there it is. There's no way you can say, oh, that's not a tropical storm. It's just tiny. It's a microtropical storm. inside of this overall larger storm system that itself is cyclonic in nature. Very, very unusual, but it does qualify. It even has a little bit of an eye there. That whole thing is tiny. You know, I mean, look at the lat long in here. There's 36 degrees latitude right there, 34 degrees latitude. Each degree of latitude is about 60 miles. So the whole thing is maybe 45 miles, 60 miles tops. It's just small, but it is really neat to see. It won't have too much of an impact as it swings through here, maybe through the eastern and southeasternmost Azores Islands over the next few days. To me, this is just remarkable to see in the environment that it's set up in. And you can get these from time to time, short-lived, tiny little features, and I'll show you on the modeling here in just a minute. I think we might get another one. So here's the larger cyclonic envelope of vorticity, and inside of it is Pablo. Just remarkable. Here's all the energy that was containing Olga and the rest of the frontal boundary and the storm system that's moving through the Gulf Coast states and the Mississippi Valley this weekend. And James Spann on Twitter, if you know him, very popular guy. The remnant circulation of former tropical storm Olga moving through northern Mississippi. And it's definitely bringing in some strong wind gusts through much of Mississippi and Alabama this morning. He posted this about an hour ago. Band of showers moving in along the Florida Panhandle, Mobile Bay area towards the Panhandle. Lots of isobars packed in here. Strong southerly flow on the east side, northwest flow on the west side. There you go. It had impacts. You know, we saw people tweeting about the almost 60 mile per hour wind that took place down here in parts of southeast Louisiana. Power outages, trees down, and it's all from what was Tropical Storm Olga, and well, it was post-tropical at the time, but again, those are just labels we give these systems to help keep up with what's what. The bottom line is it brought impacts. Some of you still seeing those impacts. If you're watching this later, you're like, yeah, man, I was without power for a couple of days. This was an impactful system down here along the coast, and now it's moving on up through the inland areas. And there you go, a late season tropical storm. So what's on the horizon? Well, if we look at the GFS, and we're going to kind of jump around different regions here. This is the Atlantic Basin. Here's the west coast of Africa, east coast of North America over here, Central America, South America. There's the larger circulation that inside of it you have Pablo, teeny tiny Pablo in there. The leftover vorticity signature over parts of the Tennessee Valley, deep south, whatever you want to call it, leftovers of Olga. Nice high pressure area off the east coast, keeping it very warm, very humid, very sultry in South Florida. You guys can't buy a frontal passage. All the wealth and the real estate down there. And that's a pretty wealthy part of the world, South Florida, from Naples over to, West Palm Beach and all the metropolitan areas down there, Miami-Dade, Broward County. A lot of money, but you guys can't buy a cold front. Sorry, it doesn't work that way. You can't influence the weather to that extent. Yeah, we influence a little bit because we're here. Duh. But, yeah, you're making a cold front go through South Florida, just like we can't steer hurricanes where we want them to go, away from land, whatever. I am sorry, you can't have a cold front just yet. Like the soup Nazi from Seinfeld, no cold front for you, unfortunately. So let's see what's happening here. This is the wide perspective of the Atlantic. And I'll just kind of move this through the next few days. And look, there's another powerful storm system right there. Keep our eyes on it. It's got that curly Q front on it. So that's definitely a signature of a mid-latitude storm system rather than something, that would be subtropical or transition to tropical like Pablo did. But if it festers long enough, look right there, it's about hour 48 to 72. It wouldn't surprise me if we get another one. Little system that, breaks off inside of a much larger cyclonic. It's just wild. So we may get Rebecca. I think it's Rebakh, if I spell that. Anyway, it's Rebecca with an AH at the end. I do know that. My wife's name's Rebecca, but it's Rebecca. Nevertheless, that will be interesting to watch. Might get the R storm out of that over the next few days, but I want to draw your attention to that little doodad over there in the Gulf, and let's change it to orange, right there. So let's change the regions. Again, awesome coding by Mr. Cowan, almost Dr. Levi Cowan, Florida State University. I'm going to check up on that and make sure we congratulate him when he becomes a PhD holder, Dr. Cowan. So this is 78 hours out. Let's back it up till about right now. There we are. So this energy right here in the Western Caribbean is vorticity. You can see that kind of mess spread out there. Not very well organized. And if we go back and look at the vorticity chart, the other was the model. This is the analysis. There it is right in there. There is some energy down there, the seedling, if you will. So we know the water temperatures are warm down there. So let's see what happens on the old GFS here. We'll go out to 24 hours. It's west of the Caymans, western Cuba in vicinity. It moves into the Yucatan Channel. And then it starts to just get that look to it right there. Strong ridging still over the western Atlantic. And on that southwest flank, that's where we tend to see it. Just, I've seen this before. You know, that's where you look. And if we go on through time, that's 48 hours out there. You know, it doesn't look like much, but I mean, come on. You got to give it to me. I'm not seeing things that looks like a hurricane symbol in there, right? Sort of a sideways S. Yes, I think it does. It's got that look. And it's right on the western side, west-southwest side of that ridge over there. It's over warm water, over the loop current. Wouldn't it be something else if another system formed in the Gulf? It does try to close off there. And you can see the wind barbs all around it, counterclockwise. We'll see. It's not that far out in time, 66 hours here, going on out to 72. It makes its way up into, you guessed it, southeast Louisiana. So we'll see. I mean, you go back and just see the evolution of it there. Right? And then in the eastern Pacific, more energy over here, maybe trying to get together and coalesce and do something with itself. So we'll watch and see what happens. We'll see if eventually the National Hurricane Center begins to mention it, and we will go from there. Let's back this sucker up. This is the Arabian Sea, and here we are about right now. This is that cyclone over in the Arabian Sea between India over here and Oman there. Was some concern the other day that this might make a beeline towards Oman, but the GFS has it just kind of milling around up here in the northern parts of the Arabian Sea, and then it kind of fizzles out. And we're now out almost 10 days. So we go back in time. Worth watching, but maybe it just turns out to be a whole bunch of nothing over there. Really interesting, though. Powerful cyclone, and that's what they do call them over there, cyclones, in the Arabian Sea. And again, the name of that one, Cyclone Kayar. That makes sense to me. I think that's what the name is. So it's weird. It seems like it's more like late September out there. One of our patrons was messaging me today, Ernesto, and you know, it seems like it's all a month behind. And it feels like we've done that the last few years. You know, that late September is kind of like late August, and late October is kind of like late September. And is there something to that? I don't know. Let's go another 5 years maybe, and we'll see. It could just be an anomaly, and that's what anomalies are, departures from the normal. And then they kind of go back to the normal. It's a departure from the normal, not the new normal. Maybe. So it is interesting. That was a good point that Ernesto brought up in a message to me, that it does. It seems like it's more like late September. And the tropics are still trying to produce stuff. You know, not big powerhouse systems, but nuisance enough, as we saw with Olga bringing all that nuisance weather. You know, tornadoes out ahead of it, partly responsible for all that. I'd say that's pretty nuisance in my book, so we still have a lot to watch, even as we close out the month of October. All right, well, hopefully this video recorded, as you may have been aware, I've been having issues with my recording software on my Windows 10 machines. Hopefully this one worked. But you notice I didn't mention it until the end because fingers crossed. All right, that is it from me for today. Have a great rest of your Saturday. As always, thank you for tuning in. I do appreciate it. It's great to have you along watching and hopefully learning something. I am Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com, and I'll be back with more for you tomorrow.